Hey, well, welcome to Faith and Fitness Friday. This is Joe Alvarado. Thanks for listening, sharing, commenting, all of the above. So grateful. Hey, today I got my good friend Beto with me. We've been ministry partners for well over 12 years now. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is raising kids. So if you're a parent today, you're going to love this episode. And man, thank you so much for being here, brother.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
This is so good. One of the reasons why I asked you to come on to Faith and Fitness is because I've admired the way you've raised your kids over the years, and having been your friend for well over 12 years of our ministry life. We were friends even before that.
Right.
And then literally seeing you like raise your kids from the crib all the way to graduation, man. It's been an amazing thing to watch from a distance, and thank you.
My pleasure.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, man. So we tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, like you said, we've been friends for so many years, and your mom actually married us over at the church, and you did our second wedding when we had our 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
And you've dedicated, I think, all but one of my kids, right? And I've got 4. Yeah. You've seen them be born, and now my oldest is 19, starting her career in the mortgage industry. Yeah. So it's been a long route, man. It's been great though. It's been great, ups and downs, but
it's been super cool to see you to raise them. So let's talk about it. I know there was a few specific things that you were on your heart concerning this conversation. And the first one you talked about is about what they need, things that they need, and giving them and all that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you talk about children and raising kids and family, I mean, there's so many different routes that you can go. There's so many different things that are great. But I really wanted to hit on 3 real specific points that I think have helped me out on my journey. And they're things that I repeat to parents all the time when they're having, troubled kids.
And by the way, he's like the go-to person, like for real. Like people call him more than they call me, and I'm the senior pastor. But anyway, I just had to point that out.
Don't call me though; I won't answer all the time.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm just kidding.
It's true. Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, one of the first things I try to help parents is give your kids what they need.
Yeah.
And that seems real obvious, like a real duh, but what I mean by that is I have a daughter who's just a natural homemaker. Mm-hmm. She just, anybody who's got more than one kid will understand that every kid's personality is different.
Yeah.
But because she's such a homebody, me and my wife really try and push her to get more of an education.
Okay.
Steer her towards a career path. I've got one daughter who's very, very artistic. So instead of just pushing all the artistic all the time and putting all her eggs in one basket, I'll try and push her into another direction. So try and get a really well-balanced child, because, you hear it all the time when people go to high school, when these kids go to high school, they don't know what they want to do. They want to take a year off to find themselves. They don't know which direction they want to go in. So if you can help them balance out when they're early and give them something that they don't naturally want to do, it may be something that helps them decide on a career later on in life.
Gotcha. So you still give them the freedom to do what they love to do, but you're expanding their horizon by giving them something that they may not have thought of, right?
Exactly. Like if my son was a very athletic kid, I'd want to practice with him and do all these things with him, but I would also push him to, hey son, don't always bank on just your athletic side. You got to be smart. You got to have a job. You got to have a career.
Yeah.
My daughter, who's the real motherly type, I tell her all the time, you want to be a good mother, that's fantastic. I want you to be a good mom. But if you get a good, strong career, you can help your husband and raise your children even better, so they don't suffer as much. So
nice. So balancing them out, giving them what they need as opposed to what they think they want. That idea.
Exactly. And if your child's kind of like Joe here, who's a natural bookworm and the kind of nerd guy. I'm just kidding.
I love technology.
You want to push them to go outside of their natural bounds.
Gotcha.
Maybe some more athletic stuff or artistic stuff or whatever it is.
So the flip side to that would be not to give them what they don't need, right?
Exactly.
That would be the second thing you would want parents to know.
Exactly.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
Oh man, and that's the hardest one, because whenever you talk about parenting, you always hit a hard note with moms and dads, because nobody ever wants to be told that they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
You know, and when I say don't give them what they don't need, it's like don't give your 9-year-old the new iPhone 10.
I agree.
Or let your daughter start wearing makeup at 5 years old, or give your son the Ferrari when he's 16.
Yeah.
It's
what happens what do you think happens when kids are given things when they don't really need them at the age they don't need them at? I mean, what?
Right. Well, what ends up happening, I think, is obviously you spoil your kids and things like that, but that every parent knows. But one thing that we don't realize is that we put too much responsibility and we put too much pressure on them too early.
Gotcha.
So in other words, your daughter or your son might want this big thing, but all of a sudden you're expecting them to take care of that iPhone 10. You're expecting them to not crash that Ferrari. So they have all this additional responsibility and all this additional pressure. So you're really pushing them to grow too fast.
Okay.
But the most important thing, though, is on the other side of that, is when you give your kids, your children too much too fast, you kind of take away from their future.
How so?
Well, think about it like this. The best way to explain it is, we're on the internet and we got YouTube and all this stuff. But you see some of these kids that are 16 years old, they make a funny video and they're millionaires.
Right.
Well, when they're millionaires at 13, 14, 15 years old, what's left for their life? We give them too much too fast. So there's nothing for them to work towards. What's next? Are they going to retire making $60,000 a year and grow old at 50, 60 years old?
And they kind of grow that sense of entitlement when you give them that stuff too, right?
Exactly. I mean, how many kids do you hear that are so bored with their life because they've had everything, and all of a sudden they haven't gotten everything in stages? As me and you grew up, we knew that you had to get your first beat up car, right? Yeah. And then you work into a better car, then you work into a nicer car.
What was your first car?
I don't want to say on camera. So, but it probably had all mismatched tires.
Yeah.
But when you start out with the best, there's nothing to work forward to. All of a sudden, that life ends up being so disappointing. Yeah. And it really hurts our kids more. Even though we think we're doing them something better because we're giving them what they think they want and they think they need. I mean, I made my daughters wait till they were 15 years old to start wearing makeup. Okay. So they had to wait to that point. There was a milestone they had to get, and they had to be responsible. They had to have their grades in order. There was a progression to it. Yeah. If I gave it to them right off the bat, I mean, they would have nothing to work towards. Yeah. All of a sudden, what am I going to tell them that they have to have in mind?
Nothing to anticipate, nothing to... Yeah, exactly. That's really good, man. That's good. So what's most important here in these... giving them what they need, not giving them what they don't need too soon?
I know you people out there are going to think I'm wrong, but I think the most important thing is when they act up, you got to beat them till candy comes out. No, I'm just kidding. That's not... Don't write me. Don't write me. Oh, no.
You'll... Yeah. This is him. Kidding. I love this conversation because this is Beto. This is natural. This is what you get when he preaches too. So come here, listen to him. Yeah. I'll link him up. His sermons. All right.
No, but I think the most important thing that we as parents tend to forget is that our decisions are going to impact our kids. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, if I'm too selfish and I want to do extramarital relationships. And I end up ruining my marriage and I end up going somewhere else. And all of a sudden my kids are in a split home. They're suffering because of my choices. Okay. If I decide that I'm not going to get a job because I'm going to hold out for management and all of a sudden we have to move to a worse neighborhood and my kids are going to be the ones that suffer all the choices that I'm making as an adult. Wow. We as adults can go on the ramen noodle diet, right? We don't have any money. We'll be all right. But why should our kids have to suffer? What we do when we don't want to stick it out or we just want to give up too easy, the ones that ultimately suffer are our children. Wow. And I don't think we think about that enough. Yeah. We're too busy just thinking about our own needs, our own wants, basically. Yeah. And I'm not saying obviously every relationship's different, but sometimes we throw in the towel way too early.
So having kids and raising kids should bring along with it the responsibility of my own decision making as a mom, as a dad, as parents, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what about the parents that are listening and they would say, you know what, but we already got the divorce. We kind of already, there's already effects that have happened. And what would you say to them as far as, yeah, I did do some things and it hurt my kids. What do you say to them?
I would say anytime we make any kind of mistake or anytime we do something that's not the best thing, because obviously none of us are perfect, and you want to fix that, because a lot of times when you have a divorce, you have a broken home and your child doesn't know what they can depend on or not. All of a sudden their foundation kind of dissolves because they don't know where they're going to be. They don't know where they're going to go. All of a sudden you have 2 Christmases and 2 birthdays and 2 things, and mom says this but dad says that, and whenever I ask one or the other, they want to fight each other, and it gets just so crazy for them that they don't have any stability. They lose stability. Mm-hmm. So whenever you want to replace that stability, the only way to do it is to just stay consistent. Yeah. Just stay consistent. Show love, show grace, show consistent. And parents out there, don't be afraid to be honest with your kids. And, you know, me and my wife, we've argued and we fought and stuff, and we fought in front of our children, but we've also made up in front of our children as well. Yeah. I don't think it's healthy to never ever argue, never ever fight, because then when they grow up,
one day they're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, they're gonna think that it's completely wrong,
and they won't know how to handle it or see how a resolution is played out in real time. Yeah,
exactly. So
I agree with that.
No matter what you've done in life, I mean, there's always a way back. Or if your family's gonna look different now from here on out, then just be supportive, because we forget that once we decide to have children, our lives should change. For that. Yeah. You know, you wouldn't go out and have a hoopty car and buy a Lexus and decide to treat it the same way you would treat your old car, right? You would have to give it its maintenance. You would have to baby it different. You would treat it different. Your life would change over things like that. When you buy a different home, your life changes. You got a different address. When we have children, our life should change as well. Yeah. And we want to keep the same freedoms. We want to keep the same selfish desires we want, but our kids are in tow. So we have to make sure that, you know, it is a life-changing thing, and we should fight more for them with each other. Yeah.
So you give them what they need. You don't give them what they don't need. Your decisions are a huge role. These are all big values to you in how you've raised your kids. And
absolutely.
What would be the final thing you would say to parents out there watching, listening?
Well, I know from watching your videos on faith and fitness that, you know, some of them are about faith and some of them are about fitness. Mm-hmm. So, and as you mentioned, we do stuff together in church, but not everybody goes to church. Not everybody believes in God. But I will say this is, no matter what happens, we're going to have to answer one day for what we do to our children. Yeah. Now, whether that's you're going to answer to a graceful and a forgiving God, or whether you're going to answer to your children themselves. Because at some point, your child's going to grow up. And they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, hey, mom, dad, now I have kids. I understood. Why did you do what you did? Or why, when I needed your help, were you not there? Or why did I suffer so much because we didn't have medical insurance? It's going to come back up.
Something's going to come back up.
You're always going to have to answer for that. It always comes back around. And too many times we have parents who are older who need help from their children. They can't even get them to show up to take a Christmas picture. Yeah. It's sad. It's sad.
So knowing that you're going to have to answer again should be another one of those things where you say and you decide as a parent, what I do matters. Absolutely. How I act matters. My decisions matter. My choices matter, because I have an effect on my kids.
It should, but that motivation should only be after, and I think the first motivation should just be out of building your own family. Okay. You know, we forget that life has a natural progression the way it's been designed. And the way it's been designed is we go out, we find a mate, we leave our mom and dad's house, and we move out. Don't stay living with your mom and dad forever, right? We move out, and we start our own families, and we grow our children the best that we can through, you know, bloody noses and school of hard knocks. And once they move out, then we spend time with our husband and wife, and we retire, and we get to do things like there's a natural progression. And so many times we don't invest into that future, and we're 40, 50 years old still trying to go to the club, still trying to find the right one, right, when we're losing time. You know, the motivation should be to invest in our children.
Yeah.
So we
the
have
time
them.
goes by so fast.
It does. It
goes
does.
by
And
so fast.
right now, when it's about Christmas time, this is when parents feel it when children aren't around. You know, if you invest in your children now, they're gonna want to come back.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to see that when kids want nothing to do with their parents, and that's all because somebody's answering for something that they've done.
Sure. That's good, man. So I got to ask you, what are you most proud of as a father?
Well, being that I am Mexican, right? You know, most of
Orale.
you hear such bad things about going to the quinceañeras and the daughters are already pregnant, you know. And I would say my one of my biggest things that I'm so proud of is that I have my oldest is 19 years old and she's already starting to work. My next kid up is 17, and my third daughter, well, she's gonna have her quinceañera next year, and so far they're graduating, they're becoming great women, they're adults, and none of them are pregnant. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge milestone for me. I mean, that was something that's big, because in these days it's so hard to keep a good family together. So.
Good. Well, hey, thank you, man. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. Pray and hope that these values that Beto shared with you help you and your family. Thanks for listening to Faith and Fitness Friday. As always, questions, comments, you can comment below and we will respond to this. We're so grateful for everybody listening. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless. Bye.